Y'all. Okay. So we've been talking about absolute value functions. Now we're going to transition to a different type of function, and that is a quadratic function. We're going to answer lots of questions about quadratic functions. First of all, we want to know what standard form of a quadratic equation looks like. Now, we talked about standard form of linear equations. This is standard form of a quadratic equation. It looks like this. F of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, for standard form, we use capital A, B, and C. For this, we use lowercase a, b, and c. It's not that we couldn't have used capital or lowercase earlier. It's just not the way you do it. All right, it's really no reason. All right, a quadratic equation creates a U-shaped curve called a parabola. We know that a parabola looks like this, something like this. Okay, that is your parent quadratic function, basically, more or less. All right, using your graphing calculator, you need to sketch the following two functions. So we're going to talk about how to put these in the calculator real quick. So if you do not have a calculator, I'm going to pause the video and give you time to get one. So in order to graph quadratic equations or functions in a calculator, we're going to do it similar to how we did absolute value. We're going to press y equals. Make sure you clear out whatever function is already in the calculator. Now we're going to use our x button, which is this button right here below mode. X squared, the square button is above the log, plus 2x minus 5. You just put it in the calculator exactly the way you see it. Now, once you do that, press graph. Now, because of the scale and the what we've got, some of you have, or at least mine anyway. Mine is going by 5s. Some of yours might be going by 10s. So we can see where it crosses and what it looks like. I'm going to change my window to have a y minimum of 10, negative 10. Some of you may already have that. All right, so this is what it looks like. You can see that this graph, it has been shifted to the left and down from where the origin is. So there has been a horizontal shift and a vertical shift. We went to the left. That means basically we're subtracting. Nope. We go opposite. So it would be x plus a number. And we went down, so that would be minus. Okay? So at the end, the k value would be minus whatever. Now, this is not in vertex form. We're going to learn that later. But we can still understand that this graph has been shifted to the left and down compared to the parent function. All right, let's do the second one. And actually, let's just do the little sketch. So the sketch would look something like this. All right, for the second one, you can do something similar. Go to y equals. It'll be negative. Put the negative button, but not the minus, the negative. So negative x squared plus 3x plus 7. Clear out anything else that's there. Whoops. I'm messing it up. Alright, 3x plus 7. 3x plus 7. Alright, there we go. Now, I need to change my y maximum so I can see what's happening here. So I'm going to go to Window, change the y max to 10, and press graph. Now I can see the whole thing. So you can see that the graph crosses the x-axis, crosses the y-axis, and crosses the x-axis again, something like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. It just said make a sketch. Now, notice some characteristics of these equations. It says if A is positive, then the parabola will open up. If A is negative, then the parabola will open down. So that makes sense because we learned that if there's a negative out front, it reflects. That's what it's doing. Alright, so let's talk about the parts of a parabola. The parts of a parabola include a vertical line that divides the parabola into two equal parts, and that is called the axis of symmetry. Now, the axis of symmetry formula is always x equals whatever the x value of the vertex is. So we'll say it like this. X equals the x value of vertex. So if my x value of the vertex was -2, then the axis of symmetry would be x equals -2. That's a vertical line that cuts that parabola in half. So it would look like this, or like this. Wherever it is that cuts the parabola into mirror images. The turning point of the parabola is called the vertex. When the vertex is the lowest point, it's called the minimum. When it is the highest point, it is called the maximum. So what does that mean? It means if my graph is facing up, the vertex would be a minimum value. If the graph is facing down, the vertex is the maximum. So we label these parts on the graph above. So on the graph above, up here, the one I drew in the margin, okay, this is our vertex. All right. Our axis of symmetry, AOS, is x equals 0. That's a vertical line. That is the y-axis, basically. And the vertex is a minimum. Alright, now, it's not complicated. On the next section, in the next section, we want to determine whether each function has a maximum or minimum. Then find the axis of symmetry and vertex. Now, there is probably a formula, quick formula that we can use to find the axis of symmetry. Let's see. It is x equals -b over 2a. That is a quick formula for finding the x value of the vertex when they give us standard form. If we have vertex form, do we need to use a formula?
No, sir.
No, it's telling us what it is. If we don't use vertex form, then we have to use the formula, -b over 2a. So, for this problem, if we want to find the axis of symmetry, we got to figure out what b is and what a is. Is there an x value right here? Is there an x value? There's an x squared, but is there an x? No. So technically it's like 0x. And then the c value would also be 0. So if I was finding the axis of symmetry, it would be x equals -0 over 2 times 4, which is 8. Now, what is 0 divided by anything?
0.
0. So, the axis of symmetry is x equals 0 for this problem, according to this formula. Alright, what is the vertex for this problem?
The vertex will be 4.
Okay, so, once I have the x value, how am I going to find the full vertex value? How could I do it? Listen, once I know what x is, how do I find y? Plug it in, right? Do I have a graph right here?
No, you just look at the calculator.
Alright, you can look at the calculator, but is there any graph right here?
No.
So I've got to use like algebra by hand to figure things out because I don't have a visual. Alright? So I plug 0 in for x to find y, correct? So the y-intercept is wherever x is equal to 0, correct? Well, in this case, it's also going to give me the y-intercept. But it's also going to give me my vertex. So I'm going to plug in 0 for x. So f of 0 equals 4 times 0 squared, which equals 0. So, what is my vertex?
0.
0, 0. Alright, now will this graph have a maximum or a minimum?
It'll be a minimum.
It'll have a minimum. The vertex is the minimum because it faces up. If it faces down, then the vertex is the maximum. Alright, let's try this one. So this is negative x squared. So now what? Does it have a minimum or maximum? It's a max because it faces down. So it has a maximum. The axis of symmetry is going to be x equals, remember, x equals negative b over 2a. So, what is b? 6 is b. Negative 1 is a. And c is what? 0. So, negative 6 over 2 times negative 1. That's negative 6 over negative 2, which comes out to be 3. So the axis of symmetry is x equals 3. That's a vertical line at x equals 3. So how do I find the y value that goes with that? Plug it in. So f of 3 equals negative 3 squared plus 6 times 3. So this is going to be negative 9 plus 18, which is what, Garland? 9. So my vertex is 3, 9. Alright, well that's good. If you know how to put it in the calculator, that tells you stuff right away, doesn't it? Alright, let's do number 3. Okay, on number 3, it's negative, so does it face up or down?
Yeah, it faces up. So it's going to be...
Wait a second. If it's negative, it faces down.
There'll be a maximum.
So there'll be a maximum. Okay? The axis of symmetry, x equals negative b over 2a. So, what is b in this problem? Anybody know what b is?
B is negative 2.
No, that is your a because that's with x squared. What value, listen, what value is with the
no,
x?
7 would be c. So.
What value is with the x?
0.
There's no value with x. There's no x. So what does that tell you about b?
0.
It's 0. So, b is equal to 0. b equals 0 in this problem. So, negative 0 is the same as 0, right? 0 over 2 times negative 2, well that just gives you 0. So the axis of symmetry is x equals 0. The vertex is the same x value as the axis of symmetry. To find the y value, I plug it back in. So f of 0 equals negative 2 times 0 squared plus 7, which comes out to be 7. So my vertex is 0, 7. Alright? I'm going to stop the video so that you can try the next one. Alright, so in number 4, what we're doing here, and we are on video, so in this problem, is this going to have a maximum or a minimum?
Minimum.
Good. Because the vertex is at the bottom, so therefore it would be the minimum. Alright, the axis of symmetry is found by, first of all, using the formula negative b over 2a. So, don't forget the formula has a negative in it. So negative parentheses negative 8 over 2 times 1. Alright guys. So this comes out to be a 4. So the axis of symmetry is x equals 4. Don't forget to put x equals because it's an equation. Alright, that means the vertex x value is also 4. And to find y, plug it in.
Judge, I feel great.
And that is 7. Isn't it negative 7? Kel, you had negative 7 on yours. Negative 7. Alright, let me pause the video again.